do have a real treat today, this afternoon, within minutes, actually, moments, because we're going to hear Suzanne Boyd, the editor-in-chief of Zoomer magazine, speak. Zoomer magazine, she's going to tell you about it herself. It's the flagship brand of Zoomer Media. And she will sort of unfold her story based on that. But Suzanne Boyd, who started her career at the Nation newspaper in Barbados, is best known for her pivotal role as editor of the Rogers Media title Flair, where she was the first person of color, not just a woman of color, but the first person of color to be the editor-in-chief of a national Canadian magazine. So she is a real leader, a real trendsetter in media, and extremely successful. We look forward to hearing what she has to say, and we welcome her now to the stage.
I'm so tall. I hope this works. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you. So you may be wondering, you've heard the word Zoomer, so you may be wondering what exactly is a Zoomer. Well, she's a 46-year-old actress who has reinvented herself as a reality TV star and a spiritually driven activist. Remember her PETA campaign, I'd rather go naked than wear fur? Well, of course, we all know she'd rather be naked. It's Pamela Anderson, after all. So now this next person tends to be a little more covered up, but he's a Zoomer too. He's perhaps just a bit more spiritual. And since he's in his 70s, he's certainly had ample time to reach that higher ground. Now this Zoomer's longevity and vitality has been international news for decades, but even more so with the birth of her great-grandson. When will he ever ascend to her throne? And the guy who took those cover images, who has been evolving as a photographer, a philanthropist, and is a first-time father at 50, the rock star Bryan Adams. Well, he's a Zoomer too. The image of Bryan is a self-portrait, better quality than your average selfie. And another fun fact, this photo and the portrait of the Queen were both made into Canadian postage stamps. That's quite the culturally significant honor for a new magazine like us. But apart from these two subjects being stamps, and two of them being Canadians, what do these four, apart from being global luminaries, have in common? What makes them all right to be on a Zoomer cover subject? The short answer is that they are old enough. The long answer is that despite the fact of their age, as the conventional wisdom would have it, or as we at Zoomer posit, because of their age, they are engaged, relevant, and at the top of their game. And yes, they are celebrities, but those same attributes hold true for the most powerful demographic. 43% of everyday Canadian men and women, the market we serve, who are 45 years old and up. So age for us is a number and an attitude. Hence the word Zoomer, whose strict definition is a boomer with zip, but a word that we also use to encompass all of the older, boomers and beyond, who are sick and tired of being told by society, the culture, and most media that they are sick and tired, even when they are not. And that they are over and out and done when they are not. One such person is Moses Znaimer, who is in the audience today. An internationally renowned media visionary and a celebrity in his own right for his impact on Canadian culture, I asked Moses to be on the cover of our first anniversary issue to launch his Zoomer Philosophy column. Moses has had a lot of great accolades and awards given to him over the years, but I think he's most proud of this one. There's a street named after him called Moses Znaimer Way, and I mention it because you're on it practically. It's just a little further down Queen Street between Duncan and John, a stretch of Queen made legendary by his city TV. Anyway, Moses was mad as hell, decided that he was mad as hell and wasn't going to take the age hate anymore. So he came up with that vital, in both senses, word Zoomer. For as he often quotes Jonathan Swift, everyone wants to live long, but no one wants to be old. He then took over and re-energized Canada's largest citizen organization, which advocates for seniors, called the CARP, which is Canada's version of the AARP, while at the same time assembling, so there's CARP, And at the same time, he assembled a suite of media, television, broadcast and production, radio, digital, shows and conferences, and of course print, which became Zoomer Media Limited. All this to serve the newly christened Zoomer demographic and to popularize his new vision of aging with the print property as its calling card. And that's where I came in. I was hired to helm the relaunch of the CARP Association magazine, CARP Association magazine, into Zoomer magazine, a consumer book with a content blend of policy and lifestyle. A service with style positioning that would grow the already existing subscription base and could compete on the newsstand with the plethora of general interests and lifestyle magazines already crowding the market. Moses, thank you for the opportunity, because it's a lot. Well, it was daunting. And we launched in October 2008 with hockey great Wayne Gretzky on the cover in the teeth of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, which hit our audience with their retirement nest eggs particularly hard, as we covered in our early pages. I mention this only to underline Moses' utter conviction that this enterprise would succeed in spite of the recession. Beyond the government policy sector, where the looming gray tsunami was being cast in the most dire light, Canada needed to confront the age issue and to radically change its perspective on it. But was Canada ready? Whether Zoomer magazine succeeded or failed would be the judge of that. So did the risk of being the canary in the coal mine for the conversation on aging pay off? I guess I wouldn't have been invited here today if it hadn't. So 5 years in, our paid circulation is at 185,000, which is a sizable one for this market, with our readership quite amplified by our pass-along. We also planted our flag on the newsstand, knowing that to get the brand and its message out, we not only had to have a potent national presence, but also to survive the Darwinian struggle there. So how's that going, you may ask? Well, let's see. In the Canadian marketplace, overall sales are down 6%. On the other hand, based on the most up-to-date information, Zoomer is up 10%. But that's not the only good news. Sales revenues are up year over year by 17%, and if you just look at the last 6 months since we dared to up our cover price from $4.50 to $4.95, revenues are up 37%, which is something, given all the free content derived from print flying around the internet. For the draw, we strategically managed our copies in the distribution channel. We also enjoyed an increased efficiency of 5%, what with tighter draws and more sales. Of course, the editor has little to do with these maneuvers, so I would like to acknowledge the work of our VP of Consumer Marketing, Marisa Latini, and Peter Wilson at Coast to Coast, who works with her and are both here today. And given the reality that as editorially driven as a cover must be, that on the newsstand it's also our sales and marketing tool, we also take input from them at the end of our cover design process. So guys, thank you for the contests, the Nabiscos, the Skybars, the Screamers, the cell lines, and of course the sell-throughs. But ultimately, I think the reason we are growing and will continue to do so is because we are the right magazine at the right time, executed the right way for the right audience. There's no other magazine on the newsstand but us saying, hey, you massive amount of middle-aged out there with your disposable income and your leisure time. We're talking to and for you. Not just as an editor, but as a reader and a buyer of magazines, I look at the newsstand and it's a sea of sameness, with many of the mighty categories like fashion or celebrity experiencing formula fatigue. If you cover up the logo of many of the elements of their covers, from cover lines to fonts, and most crucially, the subject, they are duplicated, even between foreign and domestic titles on Canadian newsstands, with all of them chasing the 18 to 49 demo. At Zoomer, we are not playing in the same sandbox. And as an editor, I find it refreshing not to be running after the next new young big thing for our cover. Miley Cyrus, anyone? But I'm honored to be showcasing icons and legends with depth and substance. Despite the fact that people don't stop reading print at the age of 60, in fact, they are more likely to keep reading traditional print along with using their iPads and their Kindles. Many great heritage magazines have done major makeovers. This is to address the so-called problem of the aging readership, with the editorial content skewed to a younger magazine. But Zoomer magazine welcomes and respects the older reader by offering solutions that speak to the realities and difficulties that may come in later life, but by ultimately celebrating aging for what it truly is, a privilege and a positive time, rife with untapped possibility. And those Gen Xers and millennials, well, one day they'll be Zoomers too. Here is a letter from a satisfied customer. You are successfully responding to the whole mature age spectrum. Furthermore, I feel encouraged by your basic premise of future-related issues of health, fashion, sex, and upbeat attitude, etc., rather than the traditional response of placating the geezers-only stereotype. Congrats to your whole editorial team. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Richard Hunter. With Zoomer as the roadmap, it's time to finally get comfortable in your own skin, to finally appreciate your health, to finally reap the rewards of your hard work, and to finally live your life exactly the way you want to. And most importantly for our readers, beyond empty nesting and downsizing and online dating and bucket listing, to finally search and find their spiritual center and finally get happy. No wonder that these two covers have been our best newsstand performers thus far. What we also created with our covers and through all departments was the visual opposite of the stereotypes that misrepresent this demographic. So our look is contemporary, energetic, and strong, in contrast with other traditional vehicles for this audience that had the look and feel of medical pamphlets, which implied that if you were reading it, you might just be in God's waiting room. And then there's the power of buzz. Case in point, our April 2012 issue featuring the Canadian folk singer Jan Arden on the cover. Jan wanted to celebrate turning 50 with a message of self-acceptance for all women of that certain age and that certain size. Here's what happened and how we capitalize on it with the call to action on the newsstand. Play the video, please.
Jan Arden. She's now a centerfold.
The 50-year-old bears all.
Posed in the magazine Zoomer in her birthday suit.
The singer bears all, and we mean all.
What does that say to you?
Well, it says, whoops, my clothes fell off.
I basically said to him, you got 60 seconds to get this, mister.
You can walk by a mirror and actually take a second and stop and say, my bum looks pretty darn good.
She wanted to say, you know, we're all beautiful, and here we are.
Arden hopes the photos say to women, be brave and be who you are. The magazine comes out in March.
And here's the photograph that caused all the commotion that we couldn't show on TV. But there it is. So this portrait essentially went viral without us even putting it up online. We do engage digitally. We are on the Zinio and Google Plus newsstands. And of course, our site, everythingzoomer.com, is a gaping maw that must be fed with content every hour. But I draw the line at content cannibalization. I see so many print entities putting their entire cover story online and driving people to it through social media before it's even rolled out on the newsstand. Sure, it may be in the hands of subscribers, but why would anyone go and buy it if you've given it all away for free? Apart from the traditional communication and PR means, what we do is tease our marquee content through all our digital and social media channels with a written and video feature on our homepage called Behind the Cover. And we don't put it online until after the issue is off the newsstands. So with the Jan Arden issue, print reclaimed the buzz from the internet. The net didn't drive the conversation, print did. And sure, we sacrificed some of the online traffic we would have had if we had put it up online in the first place, but I was happy not to do so to protect the newsstand result, which was a great one. So yes, I'm a big protector of print, but I'm not above leveraging our multi-platform family to score great cover gets, benefit from collateral buzz, and push sales. Vision TV, branded Zoomer TV, is the home of Downton Abbey in Canada. And to mark its third season premiere, we did a double cover with the two battle axe matriarchs for our April 2013 issue. Both these covers went out on the newsstand, and the sale on them ended up breaking our April record that had been held by Jan Arden. When it broke in The Hollywood Reporter that Moses had tapped Conrad Black, the former newspaper baron, to co-host a news and current affairs talk show for Vision TV, it made news as far away as Nairobi. He's our current cover subject. which is great timing as the show, The Zoomer, is premiering tonight at 9 p.m., so do tune in. That's a plug. He was the perfect Zoomer subject in that he was reinventing himself after his legal travails. For the editorial, we asked Lord Black to write about the media landscape, given his various roles within it. He filed a spirited defense of print and gave opinion on how newspapers can best save themselves. This, of course, made news in itself. So in the midst of the publicity run-up to the show, the magazine got a fair amount of attention. Lord Black was invited onto national television to discuss the piece, which was also excerpted in the National Post. So the next one up is our 5th anniversary issue. And how has the media's perspective on age changed since we launched? The negativity is still out there. For instance, the only and very big cover line on a recent issue of our leading news magazine was, "Why the Boomer is Doomed." But in the fashion category, we are beginning to see a bit of a change. For instance, all the fashion mags have been doing age issues for a while now, but they're usually covered by 30-year-olds. But we are seeing 73-year-old Tina Turner and 64-year-old Meryl Streep and 53-year-old Madonna and 49-year-old Sandra Bullock on covers. And on the celebrity weeklies, where the older are usually featured on the Stars Without Their Makeup or the Worst Beach Body covers, we're beginning to see Kim Kardashian's 57-year-old mother getting the tabloid treatment along with all the young girls. It's probably exceptionalism, but it's certainly the direction the world is going in. Aging is getting trendy for the marketers and advertisers that usually shun it. A luxury goods company that is famed for chasing the youth market did a special campaign for the heritage products featuring the well-worn, like Keith Richards and Mikhail Gorbachev. Another fashion brand is doing a campaign featuring notables like Maya Angelou, who were born in 1928, but they only placed the ads in magazines for the 28 to 49 demographic. I call that age tokenism. Categories like finance, travel, and health know the deal, but many of the categories that deal with image still feel that the image must be the face of youth. It seems silly not to engage with a reader like this who wrote us to say, "My compliments on your great Zoomer magazine. I am 72, but still interested in fashionable clothes, skin creams, and modern technology. We need to get rid of the picture of old seniors and update our image. Thankfully, you are doing the job nicely. Joanne Leonard via email." Why leave her money on the table? So to bust some of the stereotypes out there in the market, our web team, spearheaded by our Executive Director of Integrated Communications, Anne O'Hagan, who is also here today, created a web series called The Myth of the Disconnected Boomer. Here are some highlights. Play the video, please.
Recently, we've seen a lot of movies, you know, Quartet, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, Away from Her, that really talk about the Zoomer generation, talk about retirement homes, talk about issues as we age. And I think Hollywood is doing this Boomer generation a disservice by not focusing more on this audience. We know that in Britain, for example, 36% of the theater-going public are Boomers and Zoomers.
The most powerful thing that I realized is that everybody's having sex, and there's not a time that you stop having sex. There's not a time that you stop being interested in sex. I actually think a lot of people come into their own in a completely different way when you hit the point where your kids are getting older, where you are more secure in your job, who you are. Actually, that's the most important point. You're more secure in who you are. I don't think that you have good sex until you're comfortable with yourself.
So maybe you have early changes in your memory. Is there something you can do to keep yourself from continuing to decline? The science thus far, and it's still really in budding stages, is to try to optimize the function that you still have that help with cognitive reserve. So these range from what you're eating in your diet right on up to what you're doing in your free time.
I love distributing Look of the Day because, I mean, for the most part, because it's street style, and everyone thinks that the street style is just, again, a youth-driven thing. All the posers are out, or if you're an editor and you're dressed head to toe. In the meantime, they're wearing what they're wearing so well, and they know how to put their stuff together, and they're well groomed. And yeah, like, you know, yeah, they have gray hair, or yeah, they have wrinkles, but those are the things that make them who they are, and it's just the way that they carry themselves when they walk down that street.
I have been on a photography safari in Venice. Think about that. First of all, my mode of transportation, the vaporettas. The teachers in the morning would tell us, we want you to report on this, that, and the next thing. And I'd go out with my camera for the full afternoon and come back, show the teacher my results, and be able to discuss where I was going. I'm experiencing.
What we are seeing with boomer women in particular, you're seeing a lot of women who have had very successful careers, have decided to get out of the corporate track and open their own businesses. There was a study done last year by Ogilvy and Mindshare where 70% of the new businesses are actually opened by boomer women.
The boomer generation has always been at the forefront of technology, going back to the PC days, starting with the late Steve Jobs and Bill Gates with the early days of the PC. And it hasn't changed in the last few decades. There's just this sort of perception that the boomer demographic is behind in technology. But what the research shows is that they prefer to use technology when it's bug-free, when actually it's functional. That's the 45-plus crowd who actually want to use technology that works and they can afford the technology.
One of the problems with the American Constitution is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So they made happiness into a goal rather than a byproduct. So happiness comes from doing things you love, being places you love, and being with people you love. But there isn't a sort of pure essence of happiness that's detachable from everything else.
Very few people come back from space with an epiphany of change. Most of them come back very much happy that their decisions, their choices, their things that are important in life are valid and are correct. So yeah, it's very spiritual. You really look deep into yourself, but often because of the road to get there, you're comforted with what you find when you look inside.
So there we are. As you can see, the Bowie singing rock star astronaut commander Chris Hadfield is 5th anniversary cover star. It will be hitting the newsstand polybagged with a bonus book and with an increased cover price, and we expect it to do very well. But the choice of the commander shines a light on how the print and online platforms play off each other today. Commander Hadfield has been named Strategy Magazine's Brand of the Year. In space, he posted 85 videos, which have garnered over 23 million views. And he took avidly to Twitter, where he has close to 1 million followers, which is a massive number for someone who is not Justin Bieber. But back on Earth, the commander turned to print, with a new book out and magazine covers, such as this one, to promote it. I believe that within the multi-platform universe, well-differentiated and smartly distributed news magazines will enjoy longevity. But in the great scheme of lifespans, be it of magazines or humans, 5 years is just a grain in the sands in the hourglass of time. We at Zoomer cannot yet be proud of its longevity, but we are certainly proud of our audience and of our relevance to them at this pivotal time in their lives. We are proud that 5 years into our mandate, we have been embraced as a movement as much as a magazine. That is print fighting back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. While Suzanne's up, does anybody have any questions for her? Yes.
Towards a younger demographic in terms of ad dollars. So how do you grab your fair share of ad dollars given your audience versus what media
Well, by
planners?
doing the product that we do. I mean, that's the whole point, to show that there is the right environment. But there is, you know, the prejudice out there, as I pointed out. And, you know, we work with the clients who respect the demographic, and they work with us. And more of clients are come in. But there is that perception out there, as I said. People are, you know, they're just so embroiled in that 1849 concept when, in fact, our demo has the money, and it's like they're probably buying the cars for their kids, right? For the 20-year-old driving it, they've bought the car. So I think, yeah, we deal with it. We have a strong marketing. Marisa markets for the entire company, and we cross-promote in all our brands, and we really just get our message out there in a positive way. I don't go on many sales calls, though, so I think our ad team would be a better person to discuss that.
Suzanne, I think Zoom is a great concept, particularly coming at it from the age I am. But I wonder whether you've got any plans for taking it outside of North America and bringing Zoomer to the rest of the world.
Well, we're already in America on newsstands, I think 400 newsstands there. But that's a question for Moses, who's here. And, but I think he sees it as an international phenomenon. So I think that I can't speak for him, but I think it wouldn't be out of the question.